Bom dia. Vamos dar início a esta conferência, este dia de trabalho dedicado aos serviços dos ecossistemas nas cidades, com a temática da biodiversidade e das adaptações climáticas. Estou aqui na qualidade de dono da casa, enfim, ou representando mais propriamente o dono da casa, porque esta casa é de todos, naturalmente, é pública, é nossa. E dizer que, naturalmente, o LNEC é com muito gosto que acolhe esta iniciativa da Câmara Municipal, na sequência de várias colaborações que temos com a Câmara, em várias áreas, também também na área ligada à divulgação de conhecimentos, capacidades, mas também de infraestruturas. Enfim, temos uma colaboração já longa e, do nosso ponto de vista, muito frutífera, que pretendemos continuar. Naturalmente que esta colaboração com a Câmara também tem sido mais acentuada com a Junta de Freguesia de Alvalade, que não queria deixar de dar essa devida nota, com a qual temos colaborado em várias iniciativas, naturalmente cumprindo uma das missões do LNEC, de qualquer instituição pública, que é integrar-se na comunidade onde existe, e esse é um aspecto muito relevante. Naturalmente que também é importante para o LNEC acolher esta iniciativa, que é uma antecâmara da Conferência Europeia que iremos ter a partir da manhã, sobre uma temática que é cada vez mais importante na nossa sociedade e que, naturalmente, os engenheiros têm que reter, têm que tratar e têm que promover dentro da sua atividade. E realmente temos tido bastante atividade neste domínio, mais centrada no Departamento de Hidráulica e Ambiente, também ultimamente com um enfoque expressivo na área das alterações climáticas e os seus efeitos. São muito importantes termos não só a percepção da sua existência, mas principalmente refletir sobre aquilo que influencia na nossa atividade na área de engenharia. E, portanto, foi com muito gosto quando que aceitámos o convite da Câmara para acolhermos a sessão e patrocinarmos este evento, que será certamente um evento de qualidade. Terminava fazendo aquilo que não fiz no princípio, que era cumprimentar aqui os meus colegas de mesa, o Sr. Vereador Sá Fernandes, muito gosto em tê-lo mais uma vez aqui nas nossas instalações, e o Dr. Nuno Lacasta, Presidente da Agência Portuguesa do Ambiente, que também está aqui comigo na mesa. Espero que seja um dia produtivo, na sequência do dia de ontem, em que já se fizeram umas visitas, embora, como me referiram, com muito calor, mas acho que foram muito positivas. Portanto, espero que o dia de hoje seja realmente muito bem passado. Passava desde já a palavra aqui ao Dr. Nuno Lacasta, se faz favor.
Muito bom dia, muito obrigado. Começo por cumprimentar o nosso anfitrião, o nosso habitual também parceiro. Hoje de manhã não sabia bem se este era um evento em parceria convosco ou não, porque são tantos os eventos que vamos tendo aqui nesta mesma sala, neste mesmo evento, também uma parceria estratégica que estamos construindo com o LNEC. E amanhã cá estaremos, precisamente, também para esta ideia que me parece muito feliz de fazer 2 ou 3, já não sei bem, em paredes meias com a reunião da European Water Association, que é com muita alegria que também aqui estou hoje de manhã. Cumprimento o Sr. Vereador Sá Fernandes. Vemos com alguma regularidade, sigo muito de perto, não tanto como município, embora também, mas darei algumas notas sobre também essa dimensão. Mas relativamente a um conjunto de projetos que a cidade de Lisboa e um conjunto de cidades pelo país estão hoje, ou vêm colocando em cima da mesa, e tem muito a ver com a temática de hoje, que são muito importantes, muito importantes, são decisivos para o nosso futuro comum. e nunca esta expressão teve tanta propriedade como a de hoje. Cumprimento, já agora se me permitem, também aqui 2 ou 3 pessoas que gosto muito e que já não vi há uns tempos, obviamente a doutora Maria Santos, nós vamos vendo de vez em quando, até nas redes sociais, e tenho pena não poder participar em mais eventos que também vão organizando. O professor Humberto Rosa, com quem trabalhei, em uns 8 anos, não, 7 anos, e que é sempre bom estarmos num seminário. A última vez que estivemos juntos, creio que também foi aqui, nesta sala, num evento, nesse caso da Agência Portuguesa do Ambiente, a propósito do Live, se eu não estou enganado, o programa Live. E tantos outros aqui na sala, o professor Salinha Matos, lá está, que amanhã estaremos também na conferência. Eu daria 3 ou 4 notas muito rápidas sobre a importância desta temática, que é de facto muito feliz, porque nós estamos hoje a verificar algo e a viver algo que é muito importante trazermos para cima da mesa. Já é um lugar comum percebermos que tudo se joga nas cidades, neste início do século XXI. Tudo se joga nas cidades no sentido em que nós estamos a ter cerca de 60% da população do planeta vive nas cidades e esse número vai crescer nas próximas 3 décadas. E isso por outro lado, como não era de espantar, as pessoas historicamente instalam-se nos sítios quentinhos, nos sítios agradáveis, nos sítios onde podem viver. E os sítios quentinhos, os sítios agradáveis, os sítios onde podem viver são junto a rios, junto a estuários, junto a zonas onde verdadeiramente, num certo sentido, e cada vez mais, também são zonas vulneráveis. E, portanto, o que é que nós estamos a verificar? Eu aqui estava, enfim, a refletir sobre as curtas notas de hoje e estava a lembrar-me de 2 livros que já há uns anos atrás li. O professor Humberto Rosa lembrasse porventura de um que se chamava Climate Policy. Foi um livro de um especialista de economia da Universidade de Stanford que fazia um estudo internacional que tentava responder à seguinte pergunta: onde é que será seguro viver nos Estados Unidos lá para 2050? E, não surpreendentemente, St. Paul, no Minnesota, St. Louis, no Missouri, mesmo assim essa com o rio perto, havia aqui e acolá algum desafio. E, portanto, era um estudo, enfim, já repito, há cerca de 10 anos que tentava responder à pergunta na tendência de longo prazo com as alterações climáticas. Quais serão as cidades onde será mais seguro do ponto de vista físico, do ponto de vista de resiliência e do ponto de vista económico? Era uma mensagem pungente, atenção, que tinha como também objetivo chamar a atenção, porque a verdade é esta: isso não é uma opção. Nós não temos como opção, e não é fazer a pedagogia da catástrofe, obviamente, não temos como opção relocalizarmos a vasta maioria das populações que vive, como disse, nas cidades e em cidades que estão junto a rios, que estão junto, sobretudo também em zonas costeiras, para zonas interiores, assim, por dar cá aquela palha. Isto quer dizer, seguramente, que se por um lado o desafio é real, eu não posso deixar de fazer um parênteses aqui rápido, que foi ontem uma notícia de que a Agência de Ambiente dos Estados Unidos tomou uma decisão, enfim, seguramente perante a liderança legítima, da liderança de turno política nos Estados Unidos, de pôr de lado uma série de conceitos científicos, porque não é preciso, de facto, a opinião dos especialistas. Aliás, no debate do Brexit também houve um ministro, na altura, do Reino Unido, que disse que estava farto de especialistas. E, portanto, onde é que eu quero chegar com a próxima nota? É que nas cidades tudo se vai jogar, e as cidades são ao mesmo tempo onde as soluções estão a ser encontradas, onde a busca pelas soluções e pela experimentação tem que se tornar parte do ADN dos decisores e das próprias populações. E, nesse sentido, temáticas como aquela que nos traz aqui hoje são centrais, porque nós já percebemos, e vai muito para além, de vez em quando, das últimas 2 ou 3 vezes que falávamos, eu dizia: então, como é que estão os corredores verdes? Sintra, Loures, Lisboa, Oeiras. Nós começamos a ver, finalmente, é certo que à boa maneira portuguesa, 40 anos depois, começamos a ver no terreno algo que todos aqueles que têm uma certa idade ou uma certa memória, no meu caso, que não quer dizer que neste contexto ainda me lembro de ouvir falar dos corredores verdes de Ribartelos. Nós começamos finalmente a ver, por exemplo, aqui na Grande Lisboa, algo que é manifestamente inspirado por essa visão. E hoje fazemos-lo com uma noção, não tanto já contenciosa entre diferentes players, em termos de dizer, não, isto afinal é útil, isto é preciso, é fundamental, porque começamos a perceber o seguinte: as populações sénior estão cá fora, vivem na rua. E, portanto, não é irrelevante que as populações sénior queiram usufruir de espaços à porta de casa. E as pessoas não vivem, já todos percebemos, no centro das cidades, vivem espalhadas pelo território. Portanto, o território já lá está. Por outro lado, temos a consciência de que, e são tipicamente os rios, novamente, as ribeiras, que algumas delas e muitas delas estavam historicamente abandonadas, algumas foram tapadas, e agora as pessoas percebem, não, espera lá, afinal, se calhar vale a pena voltar a destapar. Porque esta engenharia, não é nenhuma indireta, afinal, esta engenharia de fazer as autoestradas da água, de fazer tudo a direito para a água fluir mais depressa, depois as pessoas esqueciam-se. Nem evoco o exemplo dos Everglades na Flórida, de que os rios, ao meandrarem, há uma razão para isto. Vão mantendo sedimentos, vão eles próprios funcionando, providenciando serviços que hoje percebemos que são essenciais às comunidades humanas, aos ecossistemas. E esta noção que temos hoje, pelo conhecimento, pela experiência, de que tudo está ligado verdadeiramente, nos permite concluir que a temática dos serviços dos ecossistemas, ou das funções dos ecossistemas, que é também um tema que, enfim, na doutrina, funções e serviços, é um debate que está aberto, são centrais para as cidades do nosso futuro presente. Não conseguimos passar sem elas, e se passarmos sem elas, vamos ter problemas seríssimos. Nós já todos percebemos que, mais uma vez, o desafio das alterações climáticas, por um lado, vai-nos convocar para estratégias de defesa e de resiliência completamente distintas daquelas que nós pensávamos historicamente. Isto é, nós estamos habituados, como é óbvio, um engenheiro, quando faz uma ponte, eu costumo dar este exemplo insistentemente, quando faz uma ponte, testa os cenários todos extremos, mas isso só que faltava não ser assim. Só que há um problema, diz o jurista desencartado de engenheiro, como é óbvio. É que, normalmente, quando se faz estes testes e estas experiências e estas infraestruturas, muitas vezes nós fazemos com base em histórico, que, aliás, pode ser muito, muito, muito antigo. Só que há um problema em fenómenos extremos, às vezes, e em fenómenos como a mudança do clima. É que, quando nós olhamos para o histórico, nós tiramos aquilo que se chamam os outliers, porque, senão, estávamos sempre a projetar infraestruturas, tudo o resto igual, muito caras e de pouco custo eficiente. O problema é que as alterações climáticas, o que nos vêm dizer é, se pusermos nestes modelos decisórios estes outliers, afinal a realidade é outra. E, portanto, o histórico, obviamente, é crucial, mas é meramente um ponto de partida que tem que ser depois compaginado com uma noção de prospectiva e de análise de risco distinta. E se olharmos, por exemplo, ao plano de drenagem, é aqui que eu queria chegar, de Lisboa, o que nós vemos, de facto, é o primeiro caso de vida real no nosso país em que uma medida crucial para a cidade é já formatada, tendo em conta precisamente impactos potenciais das alterações climáticas. É o primeiro caso no nosso país, se creio que tem essa noção. E, obviamente, é muito mais do que um megatubo ou bacias de retenção. É toda esta perspectiva associada também aos serviços de ecossistemas e à necessidade de pensar todas estas questões de forma integrada que estamos também a testar numa cidade como Lisboa. E, portanto, acho muito, mais uma vez, apropriado esta dimensão. E só para terminar, com a seguinte nota. A questão dos serviços de ecossistemas, por incrível que possa parecer, e não sei se o professor Humberto Rosa concordará com isto, pode até ser, se for bem pensada, bem gerida, pode até ser o ovo de Colombo para um tema contencioso e sempre presente num país como o nosso, que é o das populações terem a consciência da importância da preservação da biodiversidade das áreas protegidas como fator central de desenvolvimento e de proteção. Porque, normalmente, as populações urbanas pensam, bem, isso é um problema lá da Serra da Estrela, do interior, não é um tema meu. Mas quando começam a ter a percepção, através de infraestruturas verdes, nomeadamente, e não posso deixar, eu devia saber, Dra. Maria Santos, se não me tivesse dito na entrada, que Lisboa está na calha para ser Green Capital, e mesmo que não ganhe o primeiro prémio, quer dizer, só o facto de constar nesta lista, ser uma cidade a sul da Europa, cheira-me que este concurso está formatado para ser para países do Norte. Temos que arranjar aqui uma espécie de fator de majoração, tendo em conta a nossa característica geomorfológica. A verdade é que algo está a passar, Lisboa começa a dar, de facto, sinais disso. Temos, seguramente, no país muito que aprender uns com os outros e, por isso, aqui termina então, lançámos já há uns anos esta parte, num projeto que também a Câmara de Lisboa participou e tantas outras no país, um projeto crucial, e hoje tenho consciência dessa mesma relevância, sob a égide do professor Humberto Rosa como Secretário de Estado do Ambiente, o programa Clima Adapt, no âmbito de uma parceria com o Fundo do Espaço Económico Europeu, e o Clima Adapt local, foi uma iniciativa com uma ambição muito, muito simples, que foi a de treinar, capacitar técnicos autárquicos, um pouco por todo o país, em como fazer estratégias municipais de adaptação às alterações climáticas. E a verdade é que criámos uma comunidade, sem dar por isso. Por isso é que eu digo que é um projeto que foi pouco mais de 3 milhões de euros, enfim, com também outra dimensão local e de escolas. E criámos toda uma geração, criou-se a si própria toda uma geração de técnicos autárquicos neste manejo de estratégias municipais de adaptação. Tenho a absoluta certeza que veio para ficar. O trabalho é muito grande pela frente. Por exemplo, aprendemos uma coisa tão simples nessas estratégias. Vejam bem, aprendemos que é crucial plantar árvores. Às vezes é um bocado bizarro, estas nossas vivências coletivas, não é? É crucial plantar árvores para nos protegermos, para nos adaptarmos à mudança do clima. Mas a verdade, e aí temos um caminho longo para percorrer, nem entro por aí, não é tanto como cidadão, mas nem entro por aí, que estas medidas win-win, de plantando árvores, eu estou a reduzir, por exemplo, a temperatura média no solo urbana, com efeito, aliás, depois da amplificação com a fachada dos prédios. E, portanto, aqui termino, então, mais uma vez, dizendo que este programa adapta alterações climáticas, esta iniciativa e, sobretudo, os projetos no terreno, como a Câmara como Lisboa nos vem dizendo, a sala também de gestão de risco que tem, que é uma referência internacional, são mais do que pretextos, são mesmo convocações obrigatórias para reflexões como esta que, obviamente, com muito prazer aqui estou esta manhã. Muito obrigado.
Ora, muito bom dia, Sr. Presidente do LUNEC, Sr. Presidente da Agência Portuguesa do Ambiente, caro professor Humberto Rosa e todos os restantes. Bom, eu queria começar por dizer, pegando aqui nas palavras dos meus antecessores que aqui falaram, de facto o que nós vamos aqui hoje discutir, e amanhã vai haver uma grande conferência, uma continuação de uma grande conferência aqui no LUNEC, insere sempre tudo no mesmo âmbito. E o âmbito de percebermos que temos que tratar melhor as nossas cidades, dar melhor qualidade de vida aos nossos cidadãos e para que eles tenham os meios para combater aquilo que é evidente que tem a ver com as alterações climáticas. Falaram aqui de plantar árvores. Lisboa plantou 40 mil árvores, se calhar tem que plantar mais 40 mil nos últimos 5 anos. Plantou 40 mil. E, essencialmente, o que vamos discutir aqui hoje, de manhã, tem a ver com os ecossistemas e tem a ver com as infraestruturas verdes. Nós, durante muitos anos, tratámos do jardim e do pequeno parque sem pensar naquilo que o Gonçalo Ribeiro Tel, que já foi aqui citado, dizia que era essencial nas cidades nós termos as grandes ligações dos corredores verdes, não só dentro da cidade, mas também alargado para a área metropolitana. Nos últimos 7 anos, Lisboa fez mais 160 hectares dentro da cidade de Lisboa de áreas verdes, uns estão quase a acabar as obras, tiveram a oportunidade ontem de ver algumas, e isso representa, para aquilo que estamos aqui a discutir, mais biodiversidade, mais diminuição da temperatura, mais possibilidades das pessoas fazerem desporto, andarem, passearem, menos poluição. Estas zonas são silenciosas, menos ruído. Outro dia discutiam, nós temos índices de ruído aqui e ali. Pois, mas já foram ao Vale do Silêncio, já foram ao Vale de Chelas. É que ali, e as pessoas às vezes esquecem-se destes pormenores. Eu outro dia estava no Vale de Chelas, onde julgo eu que visitaram ontem. É um silêncio metido lá no Vale absolutamente extraordinário. Estamos no meio da cidade, talvez na freguesia com mais população, e é um silêncio que ninguém quase acredita que possa existir dentro de uma cidade. E quem diz isso também diz no Vale da Meixoeira, ou diz noutras infraestruturas verdes de grande dimensão que nós estamos a fazer. E estamos a fazer pensando também nas pessoas. Se ontem tiveram a oportunidade de ver o Vale de Chelas, perceberam que sempre foi um vale, mas era um vale que, surpreendentemente, nós fomos surpreendidos quando começámos a projetar o arranjo daquele vale pela quantidade de pessoas que se alimentava daquele vale. E, portanto, tivemos que fazer um projeto à dimensão ou com a visão de que aquelas pessoas já lá estavam todas. Claro que eu gostava muito de ter só as hortas na Baixa e aproveitar as encostas para plantar árvores, só que era tanta gente que tinha ali as suas hortas que não lhes podia tirar o alimento e, portanto, o projeto teve que ser remodelado, exatamente porque tínhamos aquela realidade. Mas estas infraestruturas verdes também servem para a alimentação. Não é evidente, não é para alimentar a cidade, mas temos ali uma economia social e de escala humana nestes territórios, que normalmente são em zonas mais desfavorecidas, que são muito importantes nós também percebermos esta dimensão humana e esta biodiversidade. Se nós formos visitar, por exemplo, as hortas do Vale de Chelas ou visitar as da Quinta da Paz, nós neste momento temos 14 parques hortícolas na cidade de Lisboa. Temos mais de 1000 talhões distribuídos. Eu desafio aqui o Presidente do LUNEC, o Presidente da Agência Portuguesa, a visitar algumas hortas e olha que não vou reconhecer um produto. Quer dizer, se calhar até reconhecem, mas há hortas com mandioca, com malagueta, que não estamos habituados a ver numa horta tradicional portuguesa. E só isto é uma riqueza absolutamente extraordinária que existe em Lisboa. E, portanto, saímos da teoria dos parques e dos jardins, como o Gonçalo Ribeiro Teles dizia, dos jardins da Celeste, para irmos para verdadeiras infraestruturas verdes que fazem a ligação da cidade. Eu, às vezes, emociono-me quando estou na zona de Marvila e perceber que as pessoas de Marvila chegam ao Arieiro hoje, a pé ou de bicicleta, em 5 minutos. E quando não podiam ir a pé, há 4 anos, tinham que, para ir de carro, tinham que dar uma grande volta cheia de autoestradas, que aquelas estradas que foram feitas em Lisboa eram verdadeiras barreiras de comunicação entre as pessoas. E para isso fizemos, neste momento, 5 pontes pedonais e ciclopedonais, o que faz a cidade ficar mais próxima uma da outra. E é isso que pretendemos também fazer para a área metropolitana. O projeto de Loures para a frente de Ribeirinha está bastante adiantado. Lisboa já se comprometeu com Loures fazer a ponte por cima do Trancão. E cá temos a possibilidade de termos 50 quilómetros de frente de Ribeirinha, desde Lisboa até Vila Franca de Xira, junto ao rio. Já há bocados estão feitos, que vale a pena ir ver, nomeadamente no município de Vila Franca. E isto é um ganho absolutamente extraordinário. Se pensarmos, podemos ir até Cascais. Portanto, vejam a quantidade de quilómetros de frente mar e Ribeirinha que nós daqui a 2 ou 3 anos vamos ter. Podemos ir desde o Guinhos até a Vila Franca. Eu tenho o sonho até ir a Danha Nova. E hei de concretizar esse sonho. Porque não é difícil. Porque muitos dos municípios, e aqui palmas para os municípios, já muito trabalharam em cada uma das suas zonas. Claro que eu também quero chegar a Sintra, mas para o interior, não é? Sei que há um bom trabalho feito com Sintra junto à Ribeira, não é? E é isso que nós temos que aproveitar, é isso que nós temos que fazer. É evidente que sempre isto pensando em soluções naturais. Ontem tiveram a oportunidade de visitar o Val da Machoeira. Os problemas da drenagem são dramáticos, nomeadamente nos países do sul da Europa. Nós, de facto, no sul da Europa, e o plano de drenagem prevê, de facto, grandes infraestruturas, mas também prevê bacias de retenção e controle da origem da água, que é uma peça absolutamente essencial a qualquer plano de drenagem aceitável nos dias de hoje. E o Val da Machoeira é uma coisa... Mas é a única ribeira que existe em Lisboa, a céu aberto. Depois era uma coisa completamente descaracterizada, com lixo, com esgoto, e hoje já se consegue perceber que se pode passear naquela zona, e quando acabar a bacia de retenção, porque vamos instalar o parque infantil, porque vamos instalar o parque de skates, porque vamos instalar um passeio que vai desde lá de cima das Galinheiras até cá abaixo a calçada da Carris, no futuro uma ponte por cima da calçada da Carris, e cá estamos a ligar a cidade, tratando da temperatura, da drenagem, da biodiversidade e de uma coisa muito importante, da paisagem. E, portanto, todas as coisas que nós estamos a fazer em Lisboa têm em conta exatamente estes problemas, ou estas soluções: a eficiência hídrica, a eficiência energética, as hortas urbanas, no fundo para dar coerência e soluções para o problema das alterações climáticas. Claro que nós também somos uma das cidades que estamos no programa do Clima Adapt. Temos um bom programa para as adaptações climáticas, que temos que ser mais exigentes ainda na sua aplicação. Mas há uma coisa que parece-me evidente, é que o facto de termos sido escolhidos pela primeira vez uma capital do sul da Europa para finalista do prémio Capital Verde 2019 já é um reconhecimento de um trabalho que temos feito. E é um trabalho que temos feito em todas estas áreas. Aquilo eram 12 parâmetros, analisados por peritos independentes. Agora vai haver uma decisão política. E, pela primeira vez, uma capital do sul da Europa. E estamos a concorrer com quem? Tudo lá de cima. Oslo, Latai, que é uma cidade da Finlândia, Tallinn e Ghent. E eu às vezes digo, e já tive até com colegas meus de Copenhague, de Estocolmo e mesmo de Oslo, e eu disse: mas como é que vocês podem comparar os vossos problemas com os nossos? Nós atravessamos uma crise absolutamente terrível, com um problema de temperatura que vocês não têm, com poeiras do Saara que vocês não têm, com uma evolução, com problemas de drenagem que vocês têm de outra maneira. E, portanto, vamos acreditar que seja bom. Eu estou cheio de esperança de ganhar o prémio. Já acho um prémio ir à final, mas se ganharmos o prémio, acho que é muito melhor para a Europa e para o mundo que em 2019 seja uma cidade do sul da Europa para servir de exemplo das maneiras como se trabalha, não só para o sul da Europa, mas também para a África, de que ser Oslo ou Ghent, onde para já eles não podem comemorar a cidade, a capital daquele ano, porque eles só fazem essa festa durante 2 meses, o resto está tudo a nevar e a chover, e nós não, nós podemos fazer essa festa durante o ano inteiro. Durante o ano inteiro temos essa particularidade de ter o ano inteiro para celebrar a Capital Verde de 2019. Vamos ver se conseguimos convencer. Nós, em alguns parâmetros, estamos muito bem. Oslo está muito bem, praticamente todos, mas não tem estas vantagens que nós temos. Curiosamente, amanhã tem piada irem perceber isto, Oslo está muito mal na água. O facto de nós termos trabalhado muito bem a água, nomeadamente a EPAL, em termos de rupturas, nós estamos muito melhor que Oslo. Nos ecossistemas, até por causa da temperatura, dos problemas que nós estamos muito bem colocados a nível da Europa. Porque também nenhum deles consegue, hoje em dia, porque também eram muito mais evoluídos, houve aqui quem disseram que tínhamos atrasos de 40 anos, quer dizer, a evolução que nós fizemos nos últimos 8 anos, aliás, em todos os parâmetros, desde o ruído, uns melhorámos pouco, outros melhorámos bastante, mas em todos os parâmetros, de poluição, de ruído, de biodiversidade, etc., é uma evolução absolutamente extraordinária, nomeadamente nesta problemática que estamos aqui a falar, ou que vamos discutir hoje, que tem a ver com os ecossistemas. Quem pensar numa Lisboa de 8 anos e a pensar de hoje, vê a quantidade que fizemos o Corredor Verde de Monsanto, estamos a acabar o Corredor Verde Oriental, estamos a fazer o Corredor Periférico com o Val da Meixoeira, para além de termos arranjado os jardins que andavam por ali espalhados e que os juntámos, pistas de bicicleta, pontos ciclopedonais, uma vinha, hortas, são 18 parques urbanos, tentar a eficiência energética e hídrica em todos estes locais. No outro dia, quando abrimos, no fundo, o Val de Chelas, ninguém reparou que todos os candeeiros do Val de Chelas, nomeadamente na Avenida Santo Condestável, já são eficientes. E são estes pequenos pormenores, todos juntos, e quando se projeta e se faz, é tudo junto, a pensar em todos os 12 parâmetros que nós fomos analisados, que nós temos de trabalhar, porque isso é que vai fazer ecossistemas que tenham biodiversidade, que tenham que proporcionem diminuição de temperatura, que tenham o problema da infiltração da água sempre presente, e é isto que eu espero que tenha relevância quando o Sr. Presidente da Câmara for fazer a exposição a Essen e tentarmos ganhar esse prémio, porque acho que não é Lisboa, é o sul da Europa que merece esse galardão. Vamos ver, já estou aqui a adentrar mais, mas estou com tanta fé nisto, que enfim. Mas não é por Lisboa, porque eu admito que hoje até esteja em algumas coisas melhores, mas é porque é importante que seja agora, pela primeira vez, uma capital do sul da Europa. Vamos ver. E bom, é isto que se vai discutir hoje, que hoje temos aqui excelentes apresentações sobre exatamente os ecossistemas. Estou muito entusiasmado com esta conferência, estou muito entusiasmado com aquilo que os municípios, nomeadamente aqui os nossos vizinhos, já idealizam connosco para alargarmos isto para a área metropolitana. Acho que isto, nos próximos 5 anos, eu quase que jurava aqui que nós vamos chegar até Santarém, junto ao Rio, com a coisa bem trabalhada, e depois mais um aninho ou dois até a Idanha Nova. Até Cascais é fácil, juntar até Sintra não parece também complicado, e pensando isto à escala metropolitana, nós podemos de facto ter uma área metropolitana, um país ou uma área regional muito melhor para as pessoas, muito melhor preparada para combater as alterações climáticas e para sermos, no fundo, aquilo que nós pretendemos todos, é ser mais felizes. Eu quero agradecer muito à Lisboa é Nova, à doutora Maria Santos e a toda a sua equipa, e à Câmara Municipal de Lisboa, aos Serviços da Câmara Municipal de Lisboa, que organizaram aqui esta conferência. Espero que seja um sucesso e até breve, e aproveitem as coisas que Lisboa tem feito e divulguem-nas, principalmente. E só para anunciar, por fim, o Val da Montanha, que é outro, que também já tem um nome lindo, não é? Que sai ali da Gago Coutinho e depois liga à Bela Vista Sul, será aberto no fim de julho, princípio de agosto. O Val da Meixoeira estará pronto em agosto, e o Val de Alcântara, obra impossível, mas que se vai iniciar a sua construção, ficará pronto para o fim do ano que vem, vai começar ainda em julho o início do Val de Alcântara. Como é que é possível nós conseguirmos fazer um passeio desde Campolide até Alcântara, mas vai ser possível, e portanto depois no final do ano que vem já podem ver, mas as obras começam já antes de agosto. Portanto, aproveitem muito Lisboa, aproveitem muito a conferência e muito obrigado aqui ao nosso anfitrião. Temos uma excelente relação com o LUNEC. Nós não rejeitamos conselhos científicos nem equipas técnicas e gostamos muito de trabalhar, quer com a Agência Portuguesa do Ambiente, quer com o LUNEC, quer com todos os parceiros, ONGs ligadas ao ambiente, porque só assim é que nós conseguimos, em conjunto, fazer uma cidade melhor, uma área metropolitana melhor e um país melhor. Muito obrigado.
Vai seguir-se de imediato a conferência.
Muito bom dia. Nós vamos dar início ao painel. Este painel é um painel que é em inglês, por isso eu vou passar para inglês. Perdão. Pronto, eu vou passar então. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here on behalf of General Director of DGT. Today is Europe's Day, so I would like to start to share with you some numbers according to the EU Urban Agenda. And I think that the EU is the largest urbanized areas in the world. Currently, more than 70% of EU citizens live in urban areas. Also, the United States foreseen that in 2015, this percentage can rise up to 80%. And in the future, urban areas development will have a major impact in sustainable development in the EU and its citizens. So in Portugal, we are very much committed in finding ways to consider urban and territorial processes as being connected and complementary. I think this is important, as we heard, a matter of scales. I think choosing and thinking at the right scales for planning and management should be foreseen as very important. Because this is very important to achieve good results. We think about the city, but when we, as Mr. said, the enlargement for the metropolitan area and all the territory is really important. And also we need innovative approaches. So we think that ecosystem service is in fact one of the major drivers to plan our territory and our cities in the near future. And maybe we need to enhance more public awareness. So I'm sure that Lisbon Municipality and Lisbon Innova were thinking about this when they choose this magnificent panel. And I would like to have, we are going now to have the privilege to listen to Professor Humberto Rosa at first place, who is the director from the Natural Capital at DG Environment, the European Commission. Then we'll hear Professor Christian Köpfer from the Nottingham University in Germany, and at last but not least, Professor Saldanha Matos from the European Water Association. So the time estimated for each speaker is about 30 minutes. If it's okay with you, at 5 minutes before the deadline, I will make you assigned. So let's start, and can we please welcome Professor Humberto Rosa, who is going to speak about prospects for the promotion of green infrastructure and ecosystem service in the EU.
Although I'm aware this session is in English, acho que ninguém se vai ralar se eu disser só umas palavras iniciais em português, porque estando há cerca de 5 anos na Comissão Europeia, devo dizer-vos que é sempre um gosto especial vir a Portugal, quando falo em português tanto melhor, mas em inglês também, mas neste caso concreto, Lisboa é a minha cidade onde eu nasci. E a minha carreira toda foi de alguma forma ligada ao tema dos ecossistemas, da biodiversidade. E ver chegar este momento em que este tema já não é só uma flor na lapela, é algo muito estrutural, quer na política, quer na qualidade de vida das pessoas, é muito grato reconhecer. Portanto, tenho um grande agradecimento à Câmara de Lisboa, ao LNEC e a todos os organizadores desta sessão. And now I'll skip to English to my intervention to bring you a bit of a flavor of what is the European Union doing on ecosystem services. I would say some opening remarks even before the EU policy context, which is, first I should need to know if my slides will show up. I hope so. If not, I will go on in any case. But I wanted to tell you, I think that nowadays the subject we are discussing goes much wider than just ecosystem services, be it in cities or not. If you look at it worldwide, we all have this perception that humankind, well, has expanded a lot during its history, and of course it has needed to push back a little bit nature and biodiversity to install a human-prone nature, let's say. But when we now find microplastic in salt or in fish, or pollutants in the most remote beach of the world, or chemicals in the outer atmosphere that were man-made, we all have this perception, well, this went too far. And now we can all link, I think, thank you, the concept of sustainability, which is getting the new mantra to conduct human societies in the 21st century, to this idea that we can't go on degrading nature. If we do it, we can't be sustainable. So I think this is we should have this in our mind. Obrigado. Now, in the EU, what are the prospects we have for this issue of green infrastructure and ecosystem services? I will first tell you something on the concrete policy context that pre-exists now, of EU policy. Then I'll tell you a bit more on knowledge of this issue, then specifically on green infrastructure. And there are some new latest developments that come from the nature directives, the Birds and Habitats Directive, that will frame, I think, much of what we'll be discussing here. In terms of structure, the first issue we do have is the EU as a EU biodiversity strategy up to 2020. It has a vision to 2050, but some very concrete targets for 2020, of which there's one headline or umbrella target, which is we want to halt biodiversity loss in the EU up to 2020. Are we on track? No, we are not. If things go on as they are, we will miss the target by 2020. There are many progresses, elements of progress. They just need to be stepped up for us to have a chance, and I'll say a bit more, have a nature action plan that then can help for that. But of these 6 targets, the one that is more central to this session is number 2, which aims at restoring ecosystems and establish green infrastructure in Europe. The first one, the implementation of nature legislation, is far from a detail. These nature directives, birds and habitats, can do a lot for the overall biodiversity strategy. I'll say a bit more about that in the end, but now I will center on what are these specific measures that come from this target 2 on restoring ecosystems and establishing green infrastructure. Okay. So what is this about this target 2? It has a specific objective time-bound, which is by 2020 to maintain and enhance ecosystems and their services, including protected areas but beyond them. And we see these concrete actions within this target, one of which is improving the knowledge of ecosystems and their services. I'll be addressing it right now. The other one aims at restoring 15% of degraded ecosystems in Europe. Another one on establishing a green infrastructure, I will get back to this, and also to ensure a no net loss of biodiversity, which means not that humans can do their things, they just should do it in a way that can compensate, mitigate, avoid losing biodiversity. This action 5 on improving knowledge, it is defined in the EU biodiversity strategy this need that the member states have to map and assess not only the ecosystems per se, where they are, also their state, are they in a good shape or bad, but especially what are the services they provide in their national territories, in such a way that we can later on value economically also these services that can go from water purification, air quality, or soil protection, etc., and then take them into account in the national accounts, which usually is not done. So this action 5 is actually one of the fundamental elements of the target to restore degraded ecosystems, to establish a green infrastructure which is Europe-wide, and to avoid the net loss of biodiversity. You can find more of this in the links, and I'm sure you'll have access to the slides later on if you so wish. To give an idea what is the first element of the knowledge, we call it MAIAS, from mapping and assessing ecosystems and ecosystem services. Basically, the image just wants to show you the interactions between 2 sides, which are closely linked, which is by one side what ecosystems are and what they do based on biodiversity, the several processes and functions you can derive from ecosystems and from biodiversity, and which feed and many people forget that, they fully feed into the socio-economic systems. We rely and depend on the services we get from nature. We are biological creatures after all. We can't produce water and air and soil ourselves. We need ecosystems to do it for us. But in this initiative of mapping and assessing ecosystem services, what we want to do is to know the ecosystems, to know the services they provide, and to know what's the input and the value they give to the socioeconomic systems that humans need, and also understand what the response of the institutions, of business, of society to those services, what's the recognition, how much we foster them, or the contrary, so that the drivers of change go in the right direction, this arrow to this side. This initiative on mapping and assessing ecosystem service is under development in practically all the member states, some more advanced than others. Portugal performing well on mapping and assessing ecosystem services. There is, for instance, one study that covers almost half of the country. The whole region of Alentejo is done through the initiative. Not all member states have done so, but of course, we are at the stage where we are knowing more about the ecosystems and their condition, and still more is needed to know about the services the ecosystems are providing, if they are in the best shape or not. So this is one of the fundamental elements of the knowledge elements of ecosystem services. The other one, of course, we always have a lot of acronyms, but they are not so complex. INCA stands for Integrated Natural Capital Accounting. And what this aims at is how can we value concretely the ecosystem services in such a way as to take them into account international account systems. And for this, we have established in the European Commission a partnership between several services, ourselves, DG Environment for Americam, the Eurostat service, which is fundamental for accounting, the research service, research and innovation, and the joint research center with the European Environmental Agency. And what we are going to do is this aim to do what is needed so that the economic decision making can take in proper account the value of ecosystems. How can this be done by one side at EU level, but also how can we develop, at least for some member states, pilot accounts so that by 2020, some member states will have their national accounts, the adequate columns for the value of ecosystems. This is what we call the INCA project from this knowledge and innovation platform where we've plugged this. This is being implemented right now, running steadily, although we have shortage of resources everywhere, including in the European Commission. We have secured the resources from all these services so that this project will go on, and I think it can be pretty fundamental to change the picture of the perception of this value that usually is forgotten, or often is forgotten. This was action 5 so, until now, the knowledge action. There's another one which targets specifically the green infrastructure, which has its own policy context, a sub-context for green infrastructure. We are not starting now. There is first a clear reference in the 7th Environmental Action Programme, which first priority is to protect and conserve natural capital. In 2013, the Commission has developed a specific green infrastructure strategy with these 4 elements you see here, promoting it, supporting EU level, and I'll say more about this, green infrastructure projects, because you can look at the city and see the green infrastructure as Lisbon is doing, but we can also take into account the cross-border element where some elements of connectivity will require EU-wide projects. Improving access to finance, which is not starting from scratch. If you look to EU funds, there are many opportunities, including for cities, in relation to green infrastructure, and also on information and on the promotion of innovation. First, what is this of green infrastructure? I'll tell you, I like the concepts. By one side, why? We are here in a house of engineers, and often we think, well, there's the engineering, and then there's this greening outside that must be taken into account. I would go one step further. I think that green infrastructure is pure engineering. Now, it's not cement engineering only, but it does require a lot of high knowledge, from low skills to high skills, from highly skilled jobs to low skilled jobs. But if you want to promote green infrastructure, you will need the knowledge of engineering. It's a different kind of engineering, maybe, or it plugs from several elements. It's an eco-engineering. But it's not something like there's the infrastructure that we build and there's the rest which is not infrastructure. It can be infrastructure planned by humans for human service. It just uses natural elements. And I think this can change the mental landscape also on investment or project. Yeah? Because usually in a city you can see something you build with cement. When you just put some greeneries, maybe people don't notice or didn't used to notice so much. But call it infrastructure, frame it as a project, get the funding and show the benefit. And it stands as much as a building in that sense. So I like the concept. But it's not say that everything green is green infrastructure. It must be a strategically planned network, something that we have conceived here. This needs intervention and investment to give us more, which can be natural and semi-natural areas, as we will find in a city, and planned in such a way that we get benefits from it. And here also a contrast between the green and the gray infrastructure. We've heard that from Nuno Lacasta, for instance, is you build a highway, that's for one purpose, transport. It can reduce other benefits, like connectivity from the two sides of the road, for instance. While if you do green infrastructure, you'll always have several benefits, not only one. That's the greening itself, but you'll have climate adaptation, you'll have air quality, water quality, you'll have leisure, you'll have social inclusion, many benefits you can tap from green infrastructure. You have here another definition, and not by chance you find the little drawing there is with cities. It's always easier to demonstrate even more the benefits of green infrastructure in cities where so many people live and so many environmental problems are concentrated. So that brings by one side the challenge, but also the need, so the opportunity is there. I will expect cities to have more on green infrastructure than other areas of Europe. I brought this here just to, you know, the Rosetta Stone. By chance, a stone was found where the same message in several ancient languages were, and this was key to decipher those languages. Now you'll find a whole lot of acronyms that we see what's the difference between all this. That stands for green infrastructure, ecosystem-based approaches, nature-based solutions, eco-disaster risk reduction, or natural water retention measures. This is all related to nature and ecosystem services, yes, but it's not all the same thing, although it's a language that can be translated easily into each other. So what I wanted to tell you a bit more is how do we look at these concepts as complementary and not just more excessive jargon, let's say. The green infrastructure, I've told you, it is planned, strategically planned infrastructure for getting services. While if you speak of ecosystem-based approaches, EBA or ecosystem-based adaptation, for instance, is where you need, when you tap at a wider scale, the ecosystem as something that will deliver you a concrete benefit, for instance, to adapt to climate change. You can, for instance, restore a full river to make it more resilient to floods. That's an ecosystem-based approach. Nature-based solutions, this is different in the sense it has a much wider kind of scale. If you use insects to protect the crops instead of pesticide, that can be a nature-based solution. Or a green rooftop can be a nature-based solution, as can a whole river basement catchment area that you replant. That can be a nature-based solution. But again, the focus is on the service, on the specific service you extract. Disaster risk reduction, ecological stands similar to what I said on an ecosystem-based approach for adaptation or to prevent another kind of disaster, including in cities, for instance. If you make them more green, you'll have less heat island effect in the summer. That's one way to prevent an extreme weather event. And natural water retention measures is what we do when we want to foster water for humans through vegetation, through ecosystems. You can do it at several scales again. but it's one of the most promising uses of nature for human benefit. So a bit this idea of the ecological Rosetta Stone or the ecosystem Rosetta Stone I wanted to bring you. Let me tell you a bit more then now focusing on urban green infrastructure, since that's the exact scope of this meeting. As I told you, although I think green infrastructure will deliver several benefits everywhere, in cities you take the most of it. You have a lot of citizens and a lot of benefits of different kinds you extract from a green corridor as the ones that were visited yesterday. At this stage, we, Commission, have given quite some attention to the urban green infrastructure, and I'm pleased to know and to tell you that cities do come in. For instance, there was a first EU pilot on urban green infrastructure, where we had in 10 cities, more than one Portuguese cities, Lisboa, Oeiras, Cascais. We have developed this indicator framework of what is urban green infrastructure, how much of semi-natural we can count as green infrastructure or not in a city, how can we evaluate the condition of the green infrastructure in the city. This exists on this indicator framework, you can also get to it. But we are trying to bring this to a next phase through a project we call now the En route project, which is to extend this methodology to more cities up to 2018. And again, we have, of the 19 cities, we have 3 that do this together, Cascais, Oeiras, and Lisboa, which I see as a very positive sign. Within Europe is the only hub of cities planning together or addressing together this concept of urban green infrastructure. A bit more on this project. It is implementing then the pilot I've referred. It has 19 cities, bring this at EU level. It does include a science policy interface, which is from the governance of the city's side to, it's the experts issue we heard in the beginning. We'll have the experts, we'll have the decision makers, we'll have the full community, and it will include networking between the cities that have a similar condition vis-à-vis similar objectives and needs vis-à-vis their green infrastructure. The kickoff was recently in Rome, 7th and 8th March, and in June we'll follow up with a conference in Malta, this conference on evidence-based planning for greener cities. So anyone still interested, the Maltese presidency is providing us this opportunity to get more on board of this. Of these 19 cities, as I told you, 3 are the Portuguese, Cascais, Oeiras in Lisboa. Now I'll getting to the final stretch of my intervention. There are some latest developments in EU policy which will bring a lot for what we are discussing here. And they emanate from the Birds and Habitats Directive. You may know these directives. One is 40 years, the Birds Directive. The Habitats Directive is now getting to 25 years old, and they basically aim to establish a representative sample of EU nature in such a way that it can be used and lived with the communities that live in the European landscape, but so that we keep those samples of the most valuable ecosystems, habitats, and species of Europe. That's what is Natura 2000, Natura 2000 network. And when this commission came on board, one of the main missions of the Commission for Environment was to conduct a thorough evaluation of the Birds and Habitats Directive to see if they are still fit for purpose, or should they need to be merged, reshaped, etc. This has launched quite a lot of brouhaha in the environmental community because, of course, I don't think the NGOs have looked to this as, well, they want to reinforce directives. They probably thought, well, they want to dilute the directives. Actually, we Commission did not want to do one thing or the other, but to evaluate thoroughly. So we did. It took 2 years. It reached the most participated public consultation in the EU's history, with 552,000 participations. For a scale of reference, the second most participated was the trade agreement with the US that has got 150. And now the Common Agriculture Policy, which is just ending, will reach 332. And I think, again, environmental NGOs probably have learned how to influence public consultations. But this has led to this thorough evaluation, and finally, in December last year, the College of Commissioners has concluded the directives are fit for purpose, but they are in strong need of implementation. So, and I'll tell you, very rewarding for someone like me, which I'm Director for Natural Capital, I've seen meetings within the Commission where all the services were bringing their best, what can we do for nature? So, and that's what we've got with this EU Action Plan for Nature, People and the Economy, which was just approved. It will not change the directives, but it will do a lot to improve their implementation, to extract all the due flexibility of the directives, but to especially boost their contribution towards 2020, towards this headline target of halting biodiversity loss. It has 4 priority areas, 15 actions. We've counted the sub-actions. There are more than 100, and we will conduct them between now and 2019. And some are directly linked to what we are discussing here. Within Action 1, you'll find this sub-action, which is on integrating ecosystems and their services in decision-making. It will not be the Commission saying, we know best and tell you what to do, but there's quite a lot ongoing. In some member states, outside Europe also, how can we concretely take into account the ecosystem services and plug that knowledge into decision-making from urban level to national level? That's what we'll bring in with this development of guidance and tools to support this integration, and providing capacity building measures also for those that may need it. Basically, this will put forward what we call the mitigation hierarchy: avoidance, compensation, avoidance, mitigation, compensation. And within the compensation, we will find the concept of no net loss and ideally net gain of biodiversity and their services. Another action directly linked to here targets green infrastructure. It is Action 12. So what will we do? We will provide guidance, criteria, how now you can develop green infrastructure at wider European level with a cross-border element also for the better connectivity of natural areas, of Natura 2000 areas. We have 27,000 Natura 2000 sites. It's a wider network of protected areas in Europe, but in some places the connectivity is needing some support, which can provide then ecosystem services. So that's what we will bring in from the nature fitness check that we have done, developing this guidance here described. So next steps of this action plan or of the fitness check of the nature directives. On the 6th of June in Brussels, we'll, in a conference, expose and debate all the contents of the Nature Action Plan. You can still attend if possible. In the 29th of June, there's the working group on green infrastructure and restoration that meets regularly in Brussels. And by the end of 2017, we'll bring in a report on the implementation of the 2013 EU Green Infrastructure Strategy. You have here more info. I'll just end up by saying that I'm very sincerely convinced that it is in cities and not in more natural areas. It's in cities that we'll find the leadway, the front runners on actually tapping ecosystem services and developing green infrastructure. First, because cities have started already. We've seen here the good example of Lisbon. You'll find it, I wouldn't say everywhere, but quite a lot in Europe. People have understood, well, we actually like this in the city. It's good for our life, and it has become essential for decision makers and politicians in cities to get it. So there's a lot to tap from the cities into this. So to have this event is a proof of what I'm convinced. Thank you very much. Ready to debate, and I'll pass to the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Humberto Rosa, for this excellent presentation and this beautiful image from Alentejo. I was there yesterday and there was no flowers. I think that we have no water this year. Yeah, I think it's a sign, or it's a, please, Professor. Now we are going to listen to Professor Christian Köpfer that is going to share with us the ecological account in Germany. Professor, please.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Küpfer. I come from Germany, as you can read here. I am the Dean of the Landscape Planning and Nature Conservation degree on the Nürtingen University. This is in the southwest of Germany, close to Stuttgart. And I'm going to present you some ideas and some facts about the ecological account in Germany in general, but I will focus on the aspects in my special state, Baden-Württemberg, because in Germany, nature protection or nature conservation is a federal thing. So all 16 federal states have their own ways, but of course some frame aspects are the same. I have 5 aspects in my presentation. First, I want to introduce to you the problem. What is the main problem in the Baden-Württemberg area, where I come from, the Stuttgart area, one of the core regions, business core regions in Germany. What problems do we face? Then the hierarchical planning as an important means to avoid and to mitigate impacts and damages to nature. And third is the eco-account, my main aspect of the presentation. And I think the eco-account is the key instrument for the compensation of impacts. In the end, I want to show you some examples which show the implementation of everything and some conclusions. I added to my topic, ecological account in Germany, a subtitle which is halting the loss of biodiversity by using the polluter pays principle. And Mr. Rosa, maybe this is just the second step of what you told us just some minutes ago. The system itself I want to present to you is not very new. It's implemented also in 2004 in the European Union with the directive of the European Parliament about the polluter pays principle. It's based on that. But its application to all, really to all impacts which happen, this is new. And now we have a 6 years period of time where we have the experience. In 2011, the system was installed in Baden-Württemberg, and now I can tell you about some experience we have within these 6 years. Even, for example, if you build a wind turbine or you build a road, that's the typical things where you have impacts, and where we have to put measures to avoid the impact or to mitigate the impact, and in the end to compensate the impact. All this is known, I think. But for example, even if a farmer raises a barn, he has to run through the same system. The system itself is quite clear and transparent for everyone. There is how to measure the different ecosystem services is based on a numeric system. So everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows about the system. So it's transparent, and everyone knows what will happen if he runs through this process. So now, what is the problem itself? Like the Lisbon area, Baden-Württemberg is, or Germany in general, is a very densely populated area. And on the other side as well, people have a high living or housing standard measured in square meters per inhabitant. We have about 40 square meters per inhabitant, which is quite above the average in Europe. And as you can see also, the population density, about 220 persons per square kilometer, is quite high. So we have two problems on the same spot. A lot of people, and the people have high demands on living space. That makes open space quite rare, as you can imagine. So the basic planning concept is the regional plan. The regional plan is used quite strictly. It is not possible to do things outside the special areas. We have these green infrastructure, like you can see here, these defined corridors along existing transport lines. And there it's possible to build, to raise, or to make bigger the residential, commercial, and industrial development, because it's not possible to do the things of development outside of these areas. These green belts and green breaks, they are the backbone of the green infrastructure of the Stuttgart region. Now I focus on a little bit closer to Nürtingen, which is in the southeast of Stuttgart. And you can see here the regional plan more clearly. The green zones, the green belts, here it's not possible to raise any buildings, to raise any construction lines, because it's given to nature, as you can see. About 30 to 40% already of the total surface of the country in this area is covered with buildings, with roads, with everything. So the green infrastructure is very, very important, and everyone tries to maintain this. I focus again on this area, and there you can see, it's possible just inside these yellow areas to raise new residential areas or other construction areas. There you still have enough flexibility, but outside it's not possible. That's the basic idea of avoidance. How can we avoid the big problems by raising, let's say, Daimler-Benz wants to raise a new production unit in the middle of the forest. It's not possible. It's from the beginning, it's not possible. The next step is the land use plan, which comes out of the regional plan. The regional plan is given, as the name says, by the region, and the land use plans are made by the municipalities. And there is also just the same system to avoid the impacts, and if it cannot be avoided, you have to mitigate it on the same spot. For example, the land use plan says you have to develop this first before you go to the next step. Maybe you need, in 10 years, you need more space for a new residential area, but you cannot do it before you have not done it in here. This is quite restrictive, and you have to argue very much if you want to do something else. But the land use plan says you have to develop inside this area, and then after that is developed, then you can go to another place. So how is this implemented? One of the paragraphs in the law of nature conservation says that to avoid avoidable impacts has the priority number one. And the rest, if you cannot avoid that, what you cannot avoid, that you have to compensate. And compensate means mitigation and compensation in two things, and two steps. The impact, for example, here in this schedule is you raise new buildings, roads or pathways, and then you try to mitigate by measures on the spot. You plant some trees, you have some river restoration on the spot, whatever is possible, what makes sense in that. But in many cases, there is something extra. Where was nature before, and now you have the houses, even though there is some mitigation. Very often there is a delta, because nature has lost something. And this X outside, this delta has to be compensated outside. The system is obligatory, as I told you already, for all impacts. But the big question is, how much is X? How much is this what you still have to bring in ecological terms? And for this as in 2011, the evaluation system for existing and planned biotopes has been created in the, as we call it, Öko-Konto-Verordnung, or Eco-Account Decree, and this was made for the offsetting of impacts. We are just running through an evaluation process. It has started right now, and by the end of 2017, there will be maybe an update of the Eco-Account Decree, and we will see how it has worked. The system works like that. For example, you have existing biotopes and you have planned biotopes. For example, you have an existing tree, and you plan as a mitigation measure to raise a new tree, or a wet meadow, for example. The average value was defined in the state of Baden-Württemberg being 26 out of 64 points. And then, depending on the number of endangered species, the richness in structures, or the number of eutrophicated or disturbed sites, depending on the quality, you have higher or lower levels. As you can see, very often, the maximum of the eco-points for the plant biotopes is below the maximum of the existing biotopes, because a biotope or a structure needs some time to develop, and we say, or that the state has said, it's not possible to have the maximum point of 39 points for a plant biotope, even though maybe it has been planted 10 years ago or something like that. So, but this system, for example, field intensive use is only 8 points, or even asphalt or concrete has 1 point in the same structure. And so with this method, you can, it's a little bit more difficult than I can present now in this short time, but with this method you can define every spot of the country. What does it help for? The importance is we have now a valid evaluation system and also in the background a legal regulation. The basis for this polluter pays principle is the internalization of ecological cost. The philosophical idea behind this is the one who benefits from urbanization, an investor who raises a wind turbine or building a new road or a new industrial zone, he has the benefit in economical values, but the public in the end pays for the ecological cost. And the system tries to bring back the ecological cost to the one who has the benefit. Not the public has to pay, but the private investor has to pay. So this is transparent for all participants in the planning process. So the planning reliability is quite high. And on the other side, which is also quite important, very strong impacts get expensive. Because if you lose a lot of ecological points or eco points on one spot, it costs a lot of money if you try to develop this area. So this helps to avoid and to mitigate the impacts. This clear and especially mandatory, obligatory system helps a lot against arbitrariness and corruption. In a special law, this has been regulated. The law is called Kommunalabgabengesetz in German, or law which regulates municipal taxes. The core of this law says municipalities must raise a tax for access roads, for special pathways, if they raise, for example, a new residential area, also parks, other urban green space, and playgrounds. And this tax is up to 95%. That means that it's the law that the municipalities must take this. If not, if it's not obligatory, that would be a ruinous competition between the municipalities, because the one municipality who says, oh no, we don't raise this tax, they will get the investors and the others won't. So I think this is very important that this connectivity is given. And on the other side, or extra to this, they are allowed to raise a tax for other non-covered expensive, like residential or commercial site development, like compensatory measures for this X, for this delta I have talked about earlier. So now some examples. This is just a average business business area, and you see here the green space around. This is paid by the investor through the system, and it has access. It has public access. The public can use this as well because it's around the business area. Or in this case, it's a residential area, and it's also the investors who had to pay for the green space around. How does the system work in detail? There is a residential or commercial development. The cost for ground infrastructure and for this ecological compensation is defined by the eco-account system. By the polluter pays principles, there is a transformation from money from the investor to the municipality, and the municipality does planting the trees, maybe green roofs, the green infrastructure around the area, and the delta is being made maybe outside because you don't have the space inside the business zone. So you have some, in this case, we have a dry meadow in this case, or here on the other side, we have the wetlands which are reinstalled or reconstructed. And everything is paid by the property owners. And we have calculated how much it is in the end. It's about 2 or 3%. It's not nothing, but it's not much. I think it doesn't break the neck to the investor if he has to pay 2% extra for the green infrastructure. It's very important to have a plan in advance to know where can you do what. If you have the idea, we have for example, the flooding zones which can be restricted, and we have the surface already. It belongs to the municipality. It's not very much money you have to pay, but the benefit for ecology and the benefit for the public is very, very high. So I try to bring together the advantages and the disadvantages of the system for the investors on one side and for the community or the public on the other. Without using this polluter pays principle, the advantage of the investor is he has no cost. He can externalize the environmental cost, and he has a high interest rate of his investment. I think he has no disadvantage. The public has no advantage of it. They only have to pay. The administration has to take over the cost to re-establish the ecological functions on the spot or maybe outside, and the green infrastructure. And if they don't have the money, no compensatory measures will happen. That's the big disadvantage in my eyes. If we use the polluter pays principle, there is a high amenity value of the real estate's environment. Or also there's a value for the investor to advertise maybe with his green infrastructure. Look what I have done for the municipality. I have provided green infrastructure. I can make advertisement with that. And for the public, we have the ecological functionalities remaining, which is big public interest. The disadvantage for the investor is, of course, this higher cost, as I indicated earlier. So now some examples for the end of the presentation. You have the mitigation inside impacted area. For example, this is one of the biggest construction sites in Germany. Bosch, you might know the Bosch company. They are building a big center for research close to Stuttgart. And inside this area, it's just 1/3, it will be a circle one day. Inside there is the impact, of course, but also the internal mitigation, like green roofs, like trees and ponds and everything. Of course, they can use it, and but it's also counted through the eco-account process. And compensation outside, this is the delta, because not everyone can be mitigated inside the construction area. There is some measures outside, like here, new areas for species. All measures are to be paid by the developer. Here the green roofs, the high quality grassland outside, or even at the parkings, you have some measures, additional tree plantings and things like this. They can do this, it helps them, of course, but on the other side, it helps also the nature. The second example, and this fits quite well together with Mr. Rosa's example from flooding, we have a residential area being developed here. This is in the village where I live, 6,000 inhabitants. At first, there was the idea, because this river, or it's not a river, it's just a creek, he brought in 2008, there was a big flooding in the village. And this river, this little creek brought masses and masses of water into the village. And then they said they wanted to raise this new residential area. The authority said, you cannot raise this. if you have you will make the flooding problem even bigger. So they said we make a big hole here, 2 meters deep, and one big wall in front, just to stop the water and to bring it into this basin. This is a technical building, but as I heard earlier, also building green infrastructure is something which can be done by engineers. And this has been done here. This is engineers' work. We have reconstructed or restored this creek in meanders. We have much more capacity inside the riverbed. And we have 2 dams here, as you can see, which stop the water from running off. And on the other side, it makes the space wet again. This is German, Riederwiesen, but maybe you even can understand what this means. The Wiesen stands for meadows, and Ried is reed. It's a wet area. And in former times, this was all wet, and we now go just back to that what the nature had before. Interestingly, the farmers, they sold the land. They said, it's the worst area we have. It's not very good for agriculture. The public, they like it very much. At the moment, we really have problems. It has been raised last year. We have problems because too many people are coming to see what's going on there, so we must find some possibilities. But in the end, I think this is a really interesting solution to avoid flooding, to improve biodiversity on 1.3 kilometers. 1.3 kilometers of restoration of this river, and yeah, even the farmers, because they get some money for the maintenance of the area, they said it has been a good idea. Yeah, some examples, some photos from the region. Now, what has been done through the eco account here? The calculation, just very simple thing. You have the delta in the value, something in the impacted area before it was higher, and then you lose, of course, and maybe you lose 10 points per square meter, and you multiply this delta with the surface. Maybe it's 10,000 square meters, 1 hectare. That means you lose 100, in this case 219,000 eco points by the impact. Then you also have in the project area, you have some movements of the soils. This is also a little bit of impact of maybe 80,000 eco points. All in all, we have a sum of impacts in the region of about 237 eco points. The project itself brings the benefit to ecology by 620,000 eco points. That means that we have a surplus of almost 400,000 eco points which remain on the eco account. That means the ones who will live in this residential area later on, it's just now beginning to be built, they will pay for these 237 eco points, which makes about 1,000 euros per person or per unit. It's not nothing. It's a lot of money, but on the other side, the gain or the benefit nature has from it is very, very high. And we still have a surplus of maybe even almost 400,000 eco points. This benefit stays on the eco account and can be used for further impacts somewhere in the village for other things. And what I think is very interesting is we have one big solution, and this one big solution brings much more to ecology compared to 10 very, very small ideas. Plant a tree here or raise something there. This is quite an interesting thing, and also the region has accepted that, and they gave a little bit money to have some information shields and things like that. Conclusions. A powerful, mandatory, that means obligatory regional planning helps a lot to conserve biodiversity and is the basis to face the spatial challenges we have, especially in these densely populated regions. notably in densely populated regions, eco-accounts play a key role in Germany to achieve the sustainability. When we implemented the system in 2011, there was a little bit of compensation, but meanwhile, the compensation rate has risen strongly. I'm running a private office next to my professorship at the university, and it's really incredible how much work there has been created through this for the landscape architects. It's really, really incredible because every impact has to be compensated, and this gives a lot of work to the landscape architects, which is nice for us economically, but I think much more important is the gain of ecological quality, which is being produced through that system. The conservation of biodiversity needs a legal frame, liability, and money. Compensatory concepts can be driven by or financed through the polluter pays principle. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor. Now we are going to listen. Professor Saldanha Matos will speak about exploring the water-food nexus and the water-energy nexus in the city. So we are really going to a way that is, we think, global and act local. So we are going to have a very nice example.
Permitam-me também duas palavrinhas em português para agradecer à Câmara, à Enova, felicitar por esta valiosa iniciativa e também agradecer o convite para estar aqui presente no meio de vós. So the title is Exploring the Water Food Nexus and the Water Energy Nexus in the City. I had mainly two options. One of the options is to include in the presentation a lot of slides that these slides will be available at the site so people can consult them. But in fact, because of the short time I have, I will skip some of them. But the information will be there. The second option was to include in this presentation some insights about case studies. Of course, these case studies will not be explored intensively, but you will have some insights about that. Case studies in different parts of the world. So, topics of the session, a short introduction, global trends and challenges. Of course, my presentation is related with water cycle, principally in water respect sanitation. So, global trends and challenges, sanitation solutions and opportunities, because you have solutions at the same time you have opportunities to create value out of those solutions. And case studies in different concepts, Drinking and Sanitation Master Plan of the Greater Maputo area, that was a study of the World Bank, funded by the World Bank, that I was involved, and also in the Lisbon Drainage Master Plan. And finally, some final remarks. The urban water cycle, the water is moving in the city. You have the water supply, and you can have, depending on the countries, the location, you can have wet sanitation or dry sanitation, but the fact is what is always circulation. It can be used, can be reused, can be used as a valorization of the space. Global trends and challenges. Of course, this you all know, the demographic growth, principally in developing countries, and this demographic growth results in a lot of stresses. The other fact that is important is the migration from the rural zones to the urban zones. And this, in the different cities of the world, this migration puts a lot of problems. People living in peri-urban areas, in slums around the city, where the conditions of life are very, very, very difficult, even in what concerns the problems related, the issues related with water and sanitation. Increasing consumption of resources at these sites, of course, contamination, and so on. More demanding and ambitious environmental laws and requirements. So at one side you have more ambitious environmental laws, and the other side the stresses are increasing. But if you see the laws or the regulation in those countries, being in Mozambique or in Angola or in Cape Verde or in Sudan, and comparing with these developed countries, you will see that the vision, the goals, even the targets are not so different, are quite similar. and the vision is there, the objectives are there, but the resources for achieving these goals are not there. So you need pressure on that. You need indicators, you need monitoring of these indicators in order that these goals can be achieved. The other fact that is important, and is also something very, very relevant, is the adaptation challenge to a changing environment. You should also, the challenges are just varying. There are a changing environment in a changing world, climate change, land use changes, I think, sustainability issues, and so on and so on. So the system is complex. The climate change pressure. There is some image of Lisbon and of Funchal and other parts of Lisbon. Of course, all you know about that. The tendencies you can there are some of the main tendencies that you have in this urban cycle, the water urban cycle. That first, a clear interaction between the water sector and the other sectors is a tendency. Social science, economy, the bio-based economy, and solution coefficients, resource recovery, and so on and so on. In the last decade, you have become hearing these words that you were not used 20 or 30 years ago. So these interactions are very, very feasible at the time. The importance of nature-based solutions, you have always, today you will speak about that, meaning, constructed wetland, rotation bays, and urban green food spots, and so on and so on. This plays a role in the modern concepts of the water cycle in the city. The tendential separation between brown water and yellow water and blue water, when you separate, the use of the resources will be much more easy, and the system becomes much more efficient. Is the principle of the ecological sanitation, ecosan, is that, and this is also one of the tendencies in different parts of the world, not just developed country, in developing country, principally not in urban areas, but in rural areas. This sometimes is possible. Decentralization, the small is beautiful, and on-site sanitation, using locally the resources, so the treated effluent for food production or for cleaning purposes and so on, you can use locally with this concept of decentralization. The relevance of service instead of infrastructure. So the focus is on the service, not in the infrastructures. So the infrastructures are serving the service. So this focus on the services, 24-hour services, good quality of service, protect the environment, and so on, it's very important. And the crucial role of knowledge and know-how. Without knowledge, innovative, and this knowledge can introduce intelligence in the solutions in order to have the goals, the targets obtained without a lot of consumption. And there you have some image about that. So when you search for a water supply or sanitation solution, in general, the main issue, the main objective is related with public health. But, of course, public health is the objective, always. It's one of the main, but the solutions also have to provide protection for people and assets. Of course, the protection of environment, but if possible, creating value, using resources out of them. And all these objectives, all these multifunction solutions that serve a lot of purposes, of course, requires adequate institutional framework, sustainability and legislation framework that is favorable to these objectives. So you need all this integrated system for things work out. Of course, the solutions depend on the climate, if it is arid, it's semi-arid, temperate, or if it depends of the economical conditions of the society, high income, medium income, low income. And if you are in a rural zone or in a peri-urban zone or in urban zone, of course, the solution will be different. You have a lot of them. There are different examples of nature-based solutions, even imported in other parts of the world. The constructed wetlands, you have a lot in Portugal for treating domestic wastewater in rural zones. You have, I think that more than 500. And you have the example of the green roof that is one of the bigger green roofs in the Alcântara treatment plant. That will be there will be a visit in 2 days in the context of the next conference of the European Water Association to this installation. Well, there are pictures also here out of Portugal, of Cabo Verde and so on. At the right there are a treatment plant where the effluent is used for sugarcane, for crops. So some insights about these 2 case studies. One is Maputo. Maputo is this large region of Maputo. Nowadays live there 2.5 million people, and these 2.5 million people, this is an urban zone, not more than 10% are served by sewers. The other are served by septic tanks, but mainly by latrine, so it's dry sanitation. So you have here a good challenge. There are 2.5 million inhabitants at the time, but in 2030 there are planned for 4 million inhabitants. And I just say that this major, of course, not just Maputo, but a large majority of cities in Africa and in South America has no water pipes nor sewers. So the fecal sludge management services in the fecal sludge are very limited. Most of the wastewater in fecal sludge is disposed without treatment. Very limited resources for operation and maintenance. And of course, you need strength in all these institutional framework, needs of capacity building. But one of the things that is very, very important is to produce more with less resources. So the issue of exploring the water food nets is that issue is very, very important in these places. Near Maputo, you have just an example. Near Maputo, you have, it was the first treatment plant in Mozambique. It is a stabilization ponds. And it's interesting to see that all around this area, because it's a dry climate, the farmers cultivate a lot in this influent area and in Mauata area. And more than 40,000 people live from that, live for urban food production. And instead of earning $1 a day, they're very poor, they quadruplicate this value for 4 hours a day. Of course, for European people it's nothing, but for them are very, very important. It's really very important. And the wastewater use plays a role on that. Of course, there are great concerns about the food security, about safety plans, but the fact that a lot of people lives from that. So the wastewater use and the treated sludge use and so on plays an important role in terms of survival of these African grid settings in dry climate. So an example of exploring this nexus that is very evident in those contexts. Of course, this is just an insight. The master plan has a lot of solutions, a lot of approaches for different places. There are decentralized solutions, sludge transfer stations, so on and so on. But the basic is to create value out of these solutions. The Lisbon Master Plan is another example. Of course, this Lisbon Master Plan have a lot of components: retention basins, source control techniques, flow control structures, sewer rehabilitation, do measure tunnels. But it also included in this master plan the need for capacity building, and there are budget for that, and also of monitoring the research in different sites. This is one of the examples of one of the works that is planned in this master plan. This is the stormwater retention basin Alto do Ajuda, just to give an example of a place that needs to be rehabilitated, and and the project has been developed. Of course, there are a lot of calculations. The main objective was to reduce the peak flow. But, and you have modeled, the idea is to avoid flooding in the flat areas downstream. But there are other benefits in services of that solution. One is the retention of gross solids, protecting the sewer assets and the maintenance, so decreasing the exploitation needs in the sewers. The other thing was, of course, important, the reduction of the peak flows, because the basis was to reduce the peak flow 80% for the 10 years return period rainfall. But also it was important exploring the potential for creating value of that solution. So, with scientific opportunities to put there a monitoring station for rainfall and for flow meter, but also exploring better the space in their exceptional views in terms of landscape, because this space have a very high potential for people going there and to stay there. So here in the lower part of the slide you have a view to the south from that space once implemented, and the view to the north. So there are a potential, it's also a value for people and for the society. So there are a lot of opportunities. Of course, the master plan has very structural interventions and non-structural interventions. I would say that the main structural intervention is the two tunnels that divert the water, but they divert the water just after a certain limit, just after 3 or 4 times the peak flow, the domestic peak flow. But in the beginning of these tunnels, in just close to Campo Lido, there will be a large tank with 60,000 cubic meters, where the water should be screened, so pre-treated, and this water can be used for other purposes, for cleaning, also for irrigation, and so on and so on. The other fact that is important is this tunnel will be as multi-use tunnel in the sense that inside the tunnel there are a channel, and along the tunnel you can install cables and pipes, and one of the ideas is to install a pipe along the tunnel, giving us and put in that pipe effluented treated wastewater, so treated wastewater from the treatment plant of Alcântara, and through the tunnel you have access to different points of the city in a very efficient way and much more economical way. So, close to Avenida Liberdade, close to Santa Marta, close to Almirante Reis, close to Bec do Berto, there will be points, some water supply points with this reused wastewater. So you can profit from the solutions, create value from that. Another thing that is important is that between the Alcântara wastewater treatment plant that is in yellow and the storage tank, you have an available head of 50 meters. And you have always at least 1 cubic meter per second, just permanently. So you can produce renewable energy with turbines from that opportunity. So, well, it's an example of this water energy nexus in a very simple way, let's say. So, final remarks. Looking to the world, you can see similar objectives in the water and sanitation sector in different parts of the world, but with very different approaches. But the main targets at the end are similar. Research is needed on water food nexus in urban, peri-urban areas, principally those related with safety plans and food security. It's very important to ensure for these people that live from that enough health. Importance of redundancy and flexibility of the solutions and the adaptation to cope with climate change and all type of land changes. I would say that this Lisbon Master Plan, the climate change has been taken into account in a very explicit way in terms of rising the sea level, in terms of rainfall intensities. And of course, the potential for energy production from the solutions. Can be, of course, two turbines or the biogas from the wastewater treatment plants, but there are opportunities. And the relevance of sustainable approaches and potential for creating value out of the solution. Exploring the water-food nexus and the energy nexus is a possibility for creating value, business models, employment, and development for the society. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Saldanha Matos. Now we are just 5 minutes ahead from time, so I think it's good. We have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. So I wonder if the public wants to question our speakers about anything or about something. Please. Nobody has nothing to ask for? Oh, okay, thank you. Can you please tell your name and where are you from, just for us to know, please?
Hello, good morning. My name is Jieling. I'm from the University of Lisbon, and PhD program in climate change and sustainable development. Thank you for the wonderful presentations, all three of you. I have a question particularly related to this polluters pay principle by Professor Kupfer. Did you raise this polluters pay principle as a solution, a possibility, or is it something that is already in enforcement with the local government in this special development agenda? How does it work? Can you explain a bit more? Thank you.
Yes, please, Professor. I don't know if there is any other question related. No? So please.
Well, the polluter pays principle is a European directive dating from 2004. And it has been implemented in many or maybe all states, I'm not sure. But in my state, it has been used as well with the idea of the eco account. But until 2011, it was not obligatory. But in 2011, there was a decree saying this principle has to be used from now on for all impacts. That was a state decree in 2011, and yeah. So now it's the law, and everyone has to use it. Okay, is this the explanation for your question?
I guess because how things are done in my country is slightly different. For example, when you're talking about the green corridors, the parks, I couldn't quite relate to the point when you say that the developers would pay 2% or more or less more, and how would they do that? Because I was thinking, okay, the developers, why would they want to pay more to contribute to the green space rather than?
Okay. Normally, the land is owned by anybody. And if you want to develop the piece of land, if the investor comes and wants to, he has to buy the land, he buys the normal price for the value of the land. But in extra, he has to pay also, depending on the system, for infrastructure, for the sewage water, for electricity. This is organized by the municipality through this law I explained earlier. The law says that the municipality, which is the transformer between the landowner, some farmers maybe, and the investor, that they organize this, and they take the money from the investor. And in addition to that, for the infrastructure, for the gray infrastructure, if you want, they also have to take money, for the green infrastructure. And that's the clue of it. So with this money, you can provide ecological measures. Yeah? That's the law saying you have to take this. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
I wonder if Professor Humberto Rosa wants to say a few words.
There's one comment I'd like to do, because I'm actually privileged to having had the chance to listen to Professor Kupfer, because I told you that we will need to develop guidance on approaches to integrate ecosystem services in decision-making, tapping from what is being done in the world and in the EU. And I think you have shown, like, for instance, in Germany, it has a quite well-developed approach right now to this concept of no net loss or even net gain. You can also look to France with their Loi de Biodiversité, which is bringing in a lot of need for this. So I think, as Germany has done also in the Energiewende with the development on energy, here probably you are showing the way for the EU. But I actually have two questions, if I may, from what you said. One is, you said the surpluses do stay in the eco account. So if you do more for nature, you have there a benefit you can use. Can this be used for offsetting impacts elsewhere by another promoter, a certain kind of banking? And related to this, you also said how important it is to have strict land use planning, which will imply in some areas you are not allowed to do whatever. You have any redistribution and compensation for the losses of the owners of that land?
Second question first. No, there is no refunding, because the land use plan says here is the border, inside it's allowed and outside it's not. This is not just, I know, but it helps a lot to prevent the green space from being developed. And to the first question, there is this surplus on the eco account. At first, the municipality or whoever does it, normally it's the municipality, they pay in advance, and they take the money back from the investors or from the ones who buy the residential area. And if there is a surplus, it's their politics. They can say, okay, in the next 5 years we will have a new residential area there, we will have a wind turbine, we have a road, or new water treatment, whatever. We need roughly maybe 100,000 points, eco points for that, because the system is quite clear, and you can, even without knowing very exactly what will happen, you can count, or you can have an overview about how many eco points you will need, and they will make so much nature that they can cover these needs. Some of our villages or towns, maybe in the Black Forest, everyone knows about the Black Forest, they will never be able to cover all these the possibilities they have in remaking nature by own impacts. So they can sell this. I hope this is the question you have. They can sell their nature to others. For example, if there is a train line, a new train line made by the Bundesbahn, by the German train association, they don't have this. They need points. They need it from somewhere. And these municipalities, they are very happy that because in the Black Forest, for example, there is not much business, not much companies who can give some money. So they can sell these eco points to these, and there is an interest rate up to 3% per year. If you do something in advance, you can get 3% for the eco points. That's written in the eco account decree. Okay.
Sim. Aqui à frente, se faz favor.
Good morning, and thank you for your presentations. My name is Marisa Graça. I'm a PhD student from the University of Porto and researcher in Biodiversity Research Center, also from University of Porto. And I also have a question for Professor Christian about who is in charge of implementing the mitigation measures when they are outside of the land to be developed. So it's up to the promoter to decide what he's going to do and to implement it?
the capacity or the ones who decide is the municipality. Every plan making, for example, for residential areas or for commercial areas, this is run through the municipality. They have they have the hat on, we can say. And so that means that the investor, the investor has the idea or has the wish to make a new residential area or a new whatever, a windmill, something, and then the municipality is making the land use plan for that. And so in the process of making the land use plan, you also have the environmental impact assessment. And in the environmental impact assessment, you use the different information on geology, soils, water, biotopes, recreation, and all this. And by the system of the eco-account, you can quantify the impact. And then, for example, the investor says, I would like to have a green roof, or I can imagine to have a green roof. How many eco-points does this provide? And then the account goes down maybe for 40,000 eco-points because he makes a green roof. Then he wants to make some trees or some whatever measures inside his area. And then in the end, normally there is some delta. And the delta is defined through the eco-account system and has to be taken over financially by the investor again.
But if he's not able to mitigate all the points he's lost inside his area,
yes,
he will have to pay but not implement himself other measures outside. So that's up to the municipality to then develop?
In some rare cases, it's also the investor who does it, if they have some land. But in most of the cases, they don't have. They need the land. They need the land to develop. And the municipality, they make a landscape plan, we call it, with a lot of ideas where measures can be made, a whole concept for the whole municipality. And then they decide, okay, we can do the compensation measures here on this river, on this meadow, or on this field, or whatever. Okay. That's the decision of the municipality.
So I don't know if there is any other question. No? So I would like to thank all speakers. Thank you very much for the brilliant presentations, and I think it was very, very interesting for us. It opens our minds, and I think it's very important. Thank you very much for all. Let's have a cup of coffee. Muito obrigada.